advisor with Women's Enterprise Center. We've got a great session for you this morning, mentoring, what you need to know and your chance to ask. So you're going to be hearing from a terrific panel this morning who I will be introducing. And this is your opportunity to have some input, to ask questions of our panelists this morning. So welcome from all over BC to Women's Enterprise Center and Island Women in Science and Technology. Okay, good morning. And someone's already chatting in here. Good morning, thanks for organizing this. Well, we have a great organizing team right here. If you are not familiar with the Zoom webinars, take a look at the top of your screen. You're going to see a Q&A or a chat. If you would like to make a comment or ask a question, you just click on either of these. Kaitlyn is here, and she's going to monitor our chat line for us as well and connect with your questions. So just click on and you can send a question to an individual panelist, or you can send it to all of the panelists. So please do use the Q&A and the chat to connect with us. We want to make this interactive and interesting. And our next slide. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Women's Enterprise Center. For those of you who are not familiar with Women's Enterprise Center, we are a not-for-profit organization funded through Western Economic Diversification. So we have sister organizations in all of the Western provinces, BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. So we're the BC, we're your BC organization serving women entrepreneurs all across BC. And we've got people from all parts of the province today. So welcome again. We are empowering women entrepreneurs throughout the province. We help business owners to realize their business potential, primarily through a business loans program. We have business loans up to $150,000. We provide professional advice and resources through our advisory program. We also provide skills training, such as these webinars. Of course, right now, we are in the midst of a pandemic, and so all of our training is being delivered to you free of charge online through our webinars. Skills training, and we also have a mentoring program, which is the highlight of our topic today, and a supportive community. And right now, in the midst of a pandemic, the supportive community is a very important part of what we're doing right now. And it's why we connect with other organizations like the Island Women in Science and Technology, so that we can bring these groups, and we have common interests and common mandates to support women entrepreneurs. So that's a part of what we are here today to talk about, to support you and to talk about mentoring. I'm now going to turn it over to Claire Skillen. Claire is the chair of the Island Women in Science and Technology, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about IWIST. Thanks, Claire.
Thanks so much, Dawn, and good morning, everybody. I would like to honor and acknowledge that I am speaking with you today from the beautiful unceded lands of the Lekwungen-speaking peoples, the Songhees, Esquimalt, and Wisanich nations. So who are we as IWIST? As Dawn pointed out, we have very similar goals in building a trusted community of women in STEM, of which that includes women entrepreneurs, of course. We also have a goal of building the communities that we live in, and a number of our members do volunteer for a number of activities, whether that be through Rural Roads and other more socially based enterprises. We also focus on building the people in our community and building them up through wonderful events like these. And as Dawn pointed out, a key piece for us is building strong partnerships in support of the goal of supporting women in STEM. So we would like to invite you to take a look at our link, www.iwas.ca, to learn a little bit more about the events that we have on an annual basis. They do shift a little bit in terms of focus, and we're grateful to be partnered with amazing organizations like Women's Enterprise Center. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Claire. It's my pleasure now to talk to you a little bit about the details of what we're going to cover today, and then to introduce the panel. So on to today's session. Women's Enterprise Center and Island Women in Science and Technology are bringing you a panel of experienced mentors and mentees for a discussion about mentorship for women entrepreneurs and women in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. Mentoring can help you to gain confidence, to help you to fast track your skill development, and to build a support network to grow your business or your career. In this interactive session, we're going to chat about the types of mentoring, how to tap into programs. We're going to talk about what makes a great mentor and who should become one. If you're out there thinking about becoming a mentor, there's a great opportunity here to learn more. Signs that you may be ready to connect with a mentor. If you're looking for a mentor, how do you know you're ready for a mentor? And especially best practices for mentoring relationships. Plus, our panels are going to share inspirational stories about how mentoring has impacted their lives. Now I get to introduce our panel. Kaitlyn McConnell. Kaitlyn, you want to give us a wave? There you are. Kaitlyn is our mentoring program manager for Women's Enterprise Center. So she is the face of mentoring. She is the behind the scenes in mentoring for Women's Enterprise Center and manages all of the programs for the province. Next, we have Bev Van Rooyen. Bev, do you want to give us a wave? Here's Bev. Bev's a retired BC Hydro executive. Her last position was Deputy CEO and Executive Vice President of Customer Care and Conservation. She is currently the chair of the Board of Governors at the University of Victoria. Thank you, Bev, for joining us. Corina Ludwig, there's Corina, the president of Function Fox, a timesheet and project management company here in Victoria. Corina has been a past Women's Enterprise Center volunteer mentor for 8 women in 2018. Thank you for your past experience and for being here today, Corina. Shelly Goldberg. Shelly is the BC consulting leader and public sector leader for PwC Canada. Shelly is an active mentor within PwC's Women in Leadership program, an active mentor of both men and women in her communities of interest, and has mentored with both Simon Fraser University School of Business and UBC's Saunders School of Business. Thank you, Shelly, for joining us. Julie Angus. Julie is the CEO. Listen carefully, this is really interesting. Open Ocean Robotics, a company that develops autonomous energy harvesting boats. Julie has had firsthand experience as being a Women's Enterprise Center mentee. So thank you, Julie. Thank you to all of our panelists today. And I'm going to move over to our questions. This is your chance as well. I have a question for each of the panelists. And then I'm going to invite our audience today to please also jump in with comments, with your questions about mentoring. Okay, I'm going to start with Kaitlyn, our mentoring coordinator. Kaitlyn, what is one of the most common comments that you hear, both from mentees and from mentors, about the mentoring relationship? What are some of the common things that you hear back?
I think prior to the mentoring match being made, what I hear most often is women who are applying for our program are feeling very isolated. They're solopreneurs. They get stuck in their own thought process, and they just need someone who is like-minded and who can offer a different perspective and help them work through some challenges. And that's the biggest reason why they're wanting a mentor. You know, they talk to their family members as much as possible, and they just need somebody else who's kind of lived and breathed the entrepreneurial life. And once the match is made, they say they can almost feel that heaviness that they didn't realize that was on them release. Because having someone who's been there, done that, they can bounce ideas off of, brainstorm solutions to some challenges, and just have someone that's in their corner that's, you know, not their friend or their mom, but someone who is another entrepreneur who wants to see them succeed and has taken time out of their own business to help them in theirs. It's pretty powerful.
Indeed. And you said something there, you know, someone else who wants to see them succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. You know,
Yeah.
that is a powerful relationship when in mentoring, when someone is in your corner, as you said.
Yeah. And what I hear from the mentors is that the relationship, the one-to-one relationship actually helps them in their own businesses. They get, you know, it breathes new life. It gives them new ideas, and actually helps them to grow as well. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship.
Mm-hmm. So the mentors are getting something out of being a mentor as well. Some value there for mentors. We're going to be hearing from some mentors about that.
Definitely.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you, Kaitlyn. I have a question for Bev. Bev, could you describe a typical mentoring relationship? Either, you can use either within BC Hydro or at UVic, and tell us how this has benefited the organization.
Okay, thank you, Dawn. Yeah, I think the best way to answer that is to tell you a little bit about my story. And of course, I've had some 35 plus years of working in various careers, and I was very fortunate to not only be a mentor, but a mentee. And I thought I'd start there with my experience being a mentee, which happened early in my career. And 3 people stand out for me as important relationships that had a long lasting and positive impact in my career. These people all had a number of things in common. They were very senior in the organizations that they were in. 2 of them were actually the CEOs. And I admired them not so much for the fact that they had risen to the top and become the CEO of their company, but I admired them for their leadership style. You know, they were genuine, authentic leaders. They were value-based qualities. They had humility. And I think it's an important point that when you look to have a mentor, that it's someone that aligns with your values, because not necessarily every CEO of a company or a senior executive is going to necessarily make the best mentor for you. You have to find a good match. They all took a genuine interest in me as a person. We formed a relationship that was built on trust. They were very keen on developing women in their organization. And remember, I started my career back in 1980. And both of the large companies I worked for, there were no women in the senior executive ranks when I started out. And I think the mentors I had, they were all men because there were no senior women, but they all were unique, I think, during that time, and that they really wanted to develop women within the organization. So they deliberately looked within the organization for talented women and made a deliberate point to mentor them. I got pretty lucky because somehow I got discovered, and they took the first step to mentor me. And in hindsight, I think it's important that young women today take more of a proactive role. Like, don't wait to get lucky. Put your hand up and ask people to mentor you. I think I was just fortunate that I did get lucky. I didn't really know back then that I should go and ask people to be my mentor. But the greatest lesson I gained from these important relationships was confidence in myself. I think that's what they really taught me. I think women often don't have confidence in themselves. I could hear my self-talk was, wow, they want to give me a promotion. Can I really do that big job? But all of my mentors believed in me, and that helped me believe in myself to take on more responsibility, larger projects, and bigger jobs along the way. once I got into senior roles, I started to do some mentoring to give back. And I was involved outside of my organization with a company called Minerva. Some of you may know about it. And I worked with them for a number of years, mentoring young girls, grade 11 girls, as well as young women in emerging and mid-level careers. And that was extremely inspiring. And as Dawn said, and Kaitlyn as well, you get something out of the relationship, whether you're a mentor or a mentee. I also mentored a number of women at BC Hydro. We had formed a women's network, held numerous events. And after those events, many women would come up to me and ask, would I be their mentor, just maybe even for a few months or longer term relationships. One of those people that asked me that was Claire Skillen. And so some 10 years later, Claire and I still have a great relationship as a mentor or a mentee, and I've learned a lot from her. By then, I'm happy to report the executive team at BC Hydro was at least half women, and all of the women on that team were doing mentoring within our organization. And finally, I mentor new board members as my role of chair of the Board of Governors at University of Victoria. And I especially love mentoring the student representatives we have on the board. They are very inspiring, gives me hope for the future. I love to see their journey as they move from graduating from university into careers. So in conclusion, just don't be afraid to ask somebody to be your mentor. And you can meet them wherever you are in your work life, whether it's at conferences or just networking opportunities. I will bet that if you ask them to be their mentor, chances are that they will say yes. And you do have to do your part as a mentee to make the relationship work. Then you will gain experience. You give back by being a mentor. I certainly continue to mentor whenever I possibly can. And then I continually grow professionally and personally. I'm retired now, but I still learn so much from my mentees. It takes time and effort, but it's absolutely worth it. And that's kind of my story. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bev. That's a great story. And just you talked about the alignment of values, and how you're working with someone who you admire and you'd ask them. You also said you got lucky, and I suspect that all of those promotions didn't really have too much to do with luck. Someone once said, the harder I work, the luckier I get. But I think there's some really good advice there about asking, maybe in that informal relationship, asking someone to be a mentor.
Yeah, and I always, it can be intimidating for a young person to go up to someone who's, they look at as very experienced, a lot of wisdom, but put the shoe on the other foot and think how that person feels when they are asked. They feel, wow, I feel flattered. I feel like I could help someone. It gives that mentor a lot of satisfaction to be asked to play that role. So don't be afraid to ask someone.
Great advice. Thank you. Corina, as a seasoned Women's Enterprise Center mentor, what is one piece of advice that you would offer to potential mentors?
Yeah, thank you, and good morning, everyone. My experience with the Women's Enterprise Center was a really positive one, and it came through with a call out of just an email that said, looking for mentors and mentees, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. This is something that I've always had really good mentors in my career, and do I want more of that, or is there perhaps a different avenue where I can actually give back? So I considered it and I thought, do I have the right skills to do that? What's really involved? Would it be one-on-one? Would it be with a group? And they offer both. And so I put my name forward and kind of thought, do I have something to offer? I do. I've been for 20 years at Function Fox now, and there's a lot of success and failures and learning over the years that has been really helpful for me, and thought, I can share that wisdom and guide some other people that are maybe going through a similar situation or coming up to that. And so I put my name forward, and Women's Enterprise Center did a great job of putting together the right team and the right group. And so it was a group of 8. Julie was in that group as well. And it was my first true mentorship in a structured format. And really it was as a facilitator, but it was bringing together a group of 8 women really talented, amazing women. And the best part about it was not only were, each individual learning from, myself or one person, but they had a group of 8 people that they could share their story with and get lots of different perspectives. And I think that was the most valuable, not just teaching, but also hearing and reflecting on what each person said, and 8 different perspectives on challenges that they were having or situations that they wanted help with. And I think that was the most instrumental. I would say the one piece of advice, to go back to your question, Dawn, that I would advise is making sure that you're seeking out the right type of support. So the difference between, a mentor or an advisor or a coach, they're all quite different. And so when you're looking for help, or if you're looking to offer help, you want to make sure that you have the right fit. So a mentor typically guides. They're not giving direct advice. They're sharing experiences. It's usually over a longer term period. They're working on your skills and helping you develop your skills. An advisor is really someone who directs and is, not going to take so much into account your personal situation, but really give you advice. And so if you need that, then I would seek out a true advisor. And then a coach, sometimes get mixed up with a mentee or an advisor, but it's really a more formal, structured situation. And they're really there to improve performance. So, you want to go in with specific goals that you're looking to accomplish, and a coach will really help get you there. So I would say my one big word of advice is to find out the right type of support and make sure that you're in a group or with a mentor, coach, or an advisor that is really going to offer you what you're looking for. And there's lots of resources for that. So if it's a coach, then it might be the International Coach Federation. If it's mentoring or business advising, then the Women's Enterprise Center is a great place to start. And if it's just connecting with other women, then IWIST is a great place as well. So really seek out the network and connect with people. And like Beverly said, don't be afraid to ask. There's reward in it, not just as a mentee, but also as a mentor. So that would be my advice. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Corina. Those are really important distinctions in often, coaching, advising, mentoring, those terms get thrown out. And so I think that was so helpful to be able to describe the differences between those and the advice to make sure that you get what it is that you need and make the fit match in that way. If you need a mentor, seek out a mentor. If you need a business coach, that's a different relationship and expectations. So thank you so much. That is really good advice. Thank you. And I have a question for Shelly. Shelly, could you relay a mentoring success story? Something that highlights the benefits of a positive mentoring relationship.
Do you have all day?
Do we have all day? Well, we can quite a bit. I'd love to hear. You can tell more than one story.
Oh, there's so many. I mean, as a mentor, I get a tremendous amount back from it. And I was thinking about this question, wondering which stories to share, but maybe I'll back up a little bit. I'm delighted to be here. I think for me, part of thinking about mentoring is I had some amazing male mentors, but it wasn't until my mid-30s that I actually had a female mentor that wasn't part of my organization in one way or another. So the value in that experience for me and the desire to sort of give back on the other side is huge. I think I was blessed with some really incredible male mentors, but having that different perspective was really helpful. And I agree with Corina. I think there's lots of different kinds of mentoring relationships. And the story that comes to mind isn't one from mentoring in my own organization or any of the business schools sort of on a formal mentor match. It was an informal request that someone had to say, could you spend some time with this young woman? She's incredibly bright. She's working in this organization that she's really having a difficult time, being one of only 4 women, large sporting organization focused on analytics. And so the initial request was really, could you spend a little bit of time with her and help her navigate? I spent a lot of my career working in all male settings, clients, my own organizations. So we got together to spend some time around that. And over the space, the relationship only lasted about 4 months, but over the space of that 4 months, we ended up exploring things like she felt extremely accountable for changing the entire culture of the whole organization to be more balanced, to have more gender equity, to be a little bit more diverse and inclusive, and had sort of taken this great big backpack full of rocks on that she needed to go up the mountain and alter the culture of this whole organization. And over the course of several months of unpacking it and asking her lots of questions about what she was passionate about, offering experiences in terms of some of the things that I know I had found helpful over the years. For me, the most rewarding part was we got to a place where she was really struggling with the idea that she didn't want to give up or back down or feel like she'd failed. And she didn't want to leave the other women behind that were in that organization, struggling with this on their own. And what was really powerful was her coming to the conclusion that given how passionate she was about what she wanted to do with analytics and where she wanted to contribute, that spending 15 hours a day at something that was really not a good, healthy environment for her, and there wasn't enough critical mass to make a change, wasn't necessarily her accountability. And towards the end of the relationship, she ended up deciding that she was going to leave and took a little bit of time and is actually now running her own analytics company. So one of those stories that people connect for different reasons, and sometimes they want help with how to advance their career in an organization. Sometimes they're trying to solve a certain problem and they want some perspective on it. But probably some of my favorite ones have been the mentoring relationships where people have discovered some things about themselves and made some courageous decisions to change course or to try something new and feel supported. And I love the mentoring relationships I have in my organization. And I try and play that role from a very person focused, not, organization expectations and metrics and those sorts of things. But it's so rewarding to do it when it's outside my organization, because my entire attention is just on, what is that person needing? What are they looking for? And how can I possibly help? So I don't tell my own organization this, but a lot of my mentees end up going to do something else that they're actually really passionate about.
Talk about, I suggested impact, what kind of impact, or, a success story, but what an incredible success story to, it might sound at the beginning like, oh my gosh, she's leaving, the security of an organization. Look at the end result. But that would have taken so much confidence. And that the Shelly, as a mentor, it's like these, injecting confidence, into a mentee to help them to understand that they have the capacity, they have the confidence, they have the ability to move, to keep moving ahead. So I love that story. And absolutely, when you look at the mentoring relationship, and you said it was over 4 months, you must have just seen this person blossom.
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting that you use the word injecting, because I probably think about it a little bit more like Michelangelo talks about carving stone. He just lets out what's already there. There's nothing that we put into the time, effort, care, empathy, all of those good things. But the best part, Dawn, is just helping them discover what's in there already.
I am going to steal your Michelangelo analogy. It's beautiful. This is beautiful. Yeah. It's amazing, the work of mentors and mentees. And Julie, you were in Corina's peer mentoring group, and I have a question for you. Either through this experience or other mentoring experiences, you've been a mentee. Could you talk about how a mentor has provided support, how it impacted you and your business? And maybe you talk a little bit about what's happening in your business and where you're going. We'd love to hear that part of the story as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely very grateful for all the mentorship that I've had, and it does come in different formats. So I was involved in the peer mentoring group, and I think there's a lot to be said for peer mentoring. And it doesn't have to be with people in the same industry or even at the same stage of business, but just being able to compare notes is great. And so I really enjoyed that experience. I'm part of another peer mentoring group now as well that's female CEOs in technology companies. I've also had experience with a lot of accelerators. So I just recently graduated from Creative Destruction Lab, their Ocean Stream, which was based out of Halifax. I'm part of Mars Discovery District, which is based out of Toronto and is one of the largest urban incubators. Also part of Foresight Clean Tech and Alacrity. And the advantage of being involved with accelerators is each one is a little bit different. So you need to know what you're looking for. Sometimes it's great to be with one that is very focused on your business. So for example, we produce autonomous solar powered boats for ocean data collection, helping overcome some of the challenges with cost and safety that really have allowed our oceans to basically be quite unexplored and poorly understood, and really compromise our ability to not only work in them, but to protect them and ensure their sustainability. So for example, CDL Ocean Stream had a lot of expertise, very specific to the ocean. So they were able to provide the guidance and connections and just be a sounding board for things specific to my industry, which I found extremely valuable. Mars has a lot of resources that can be leveraged. They have a lot of business experience. So once again, great to be able to utilize that to grow my business and to grow myself personally. Foresight, I just recently started to work with a female mentor, which I really enjoy. She has a strong ocean background as well, with a PhD from MIT in oceanographic studies. And so that's great. And I think I would also, reflect on the difference between having a male and a female mentor, because there definitely are differences in the way, people approach challenges, in the way that they interact with you. And most of my mentors have been male, just because those are the people that are predominantly involved in these organizations at that level. So it's been really great to work with a woman, to be perfectly honest, and I'm quite enjoying that different perspective. And I think it really adds value having a range of perspectives. So yeah, it's been great. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, because Corina talked about perspectives and how a peer mentoring group can have a range of perspectives. And when you're working within a specific industry, to be able to have those additional perspectives and really strategic alliances as well, that are very pertinent to what it is that what your goals and objectives are, and where you're going, and needing support and ideas and that sharing of perspectives. So it's great. It's true. And, Julie, thank you for sharing, just that difference between male and female mentors. We do know Women's Enterprise Center, we know that women do business differently, traditionally, and have been socialized to look at relationships in a different way. So when it comes to mentoring, yes, there is a difference. We have some fabulous male mentors. We have male mentors. But there is often women are looking for a role model, especially in STEM, because there are not enough. We know there are not enough women in STEM. And one of the statistics that was out there, this I think is interesting, is if we continue to support young girls and students into STEM careers the way we have over the last 20 years, if we continue at that rate, it will take 200 years to reach parity. 200 years. So we need these role models. We need these women role models, successful, amazing women who are in STEM and who are entrepreneurs, and or both, and to really promote that connection, to see it and they believe it. So you're doing amazing work, all of you, in what you're doing as mentors, as mentees, as leaders in your communities. Yesterday, when we talked about, Tuesday, when our panel got together, we were talking a little bit about ghost mentors, and I suggested that maybe our mentors are mentors to people they don't even know that they're a mentor to. You know, you can have what we call a ghost mentor. You know, you're following someone, you admire the work that they're doing, and maybe you join the same LinkedIn groups as to what they're following, or, you know, just some ways of connecting in that informal way as well. Women's Enterprise Center, as you know, does a formal connection and really setting a mentor match that can be really helpful. But those informal would, as Bev said, just asking someone, you know, would you like to be my mentor? Those are all great ways to connect and find mentors. I've got, Kaitlyn, I'll get you to check and see if we have any questions coming in.
Yeah, we have one that just came in. And so it said, could one or some of our panelists maybe touch on how they might work with a mentee who may not be an entrepreneur, and in brackets yet, but on guiding them to first grow where they're planted and foster intrapreneurship in their present organizations and growing their technical chops before determining when they're ready to fly?
Okay, who would like to take that on?
I can, that's fine, yeah. I would say, you know, you have to start somewhere. And so even just recognizing that they're ready for that step is a great start, and just starting to have conversations. And I think at the end of the day, not everyone is an entrepreneur, and you can do amazing things in your own organization or helping in other organizations, whether you sit on a board or you're a mentor or a mentee. But really, it's taking it one step at a time, and you can look at the future in terms of, you know, long term, I want to run my own business or I want to start something new, but I would say start with what you're at. So take a small challenge in your current organization, say, you know, I want to improve the culture. Okay, well, what would that take? And then look at some bite-sized challenges for that. So you might implement, you know, 3 new things that are going to help build the culture and see how that grows. And then you'll start to build your own confidence, take that to the next step. And then you might do something outside of your organization. So you're in your organization, and then you might say, I'm going to volunteer for something. And you start to build confidence in something else that you're doing, and you put those 2 or 3 things together, and you slowly start to evolve, increase your skill set, add, you know, 1 new thing each month or each week or whatever. And once you have those pieces sort of building on top of one another, you'll get to a place where you're like, you know what, I can do this. I'm ready for this. And your coach or mentor or advisor at that time, you know, can give you some guidance or advice or share some experience to help kind of say, you know, you might want to look in this direction, or you might want to seek out some, you know, this resource to help you, or maybe it's you need funding to you know, take your next step. So there's lots of resources to help you out there, and I think having someone to help you along the way is great in terms of listening and coaching and guiding you along the way, and ultimately get you to where you want to be. And your goals may change, but that's always a good thing, because you have new experience and new insight that will help you shift those goals. So where you start and where you think you want to be sometimes is not the path that you end up on. And it's really about that journey along the way, and the end result of where you land on that career path is sometimes much better than you ever thought it could be. So that's what I would recommend, is just taking it small with your organization, doing some small things, and then adding to your skill set and growing from there. Thanks.
Don, maybe building on what Karina shared. I agree with all of that, but maybe backing up one step further, I think one of the most challenging things about entrepreneurship is taking a good look at, is your organization going to be a space that nurtures that in the one that you're in? Because if what you're wanting to do is start to grow some of those skills, but from an organization where you've sort of got a home, sometimes it's taking a look as whether or not you're going to have the conditions for success. Because what we want to do, to Karina's point, is build experiences, and we want to build confidence. So sometimes it's also looking at, do you have the right starting conditions where you are? Or is there another spot, another organization that might be somewhere that is going to let you nurture those skills, and either the culture or the humans around you? But it's really sort of taking that incremental kind of progress that Karina talked about. But sometimes you have to walk up a flight of stairs and look down and say, am I in the right spot to begin with? Not sure where it's going to end up, to Karina's point, but I think sometimes it's hard to watch when people get frustrated with false starts, or with sort of what I call sort of invisible saran wrap walls that they run into. They're doing something that's really actually a great idea, but they keep sort of hitting these invisible walls. So I think there's an element of, if you know that you'd like to be an entrepreneur, is just sort of setting your first steps up for success. Looking at the spot you are, and is this a good spot to plant my garden, or to be planted, to use your analogy for the person that asked the question.
That really provides some parameters around how do I decide. I like the concept of saran wrap. We've got glass ceilings, but we've also got saran wrap walls sometimes, and the one step at a time is just such great advice. You know, really looking at what's possible. You know, there's the hitting your head against the wall or against the saran wrap if the conditions are not right. And I'm sure that mentors, you've seen that. As mentors, you've seen those, you know, those misalignments, right? Wow.
We just had another question come in, and then so someone's saying, I'm looking for a mentor, and I wonder if I can get introduced to those interested with the support of Women's Enterprise. So I think I can probably answer this, is we do intakes for our one-to-one mentoring program. So if you are interested in getting a one-to-one mentor, we do intakes usually three times a year, depending. And so it's just signing up for our e-news, and then you'd get notified on when those intakes are open. We also have peer mentoring groups that'll be launching throughout the province here in the next couple months. So another good reason to sign up for the e-news to get notified. We do have a northern peer mentoring group that's going to be launching virtually. And so if you're in the north and interested, you can contact me. So we'll send out an email at the end of this session with that information. So if you are looking for a mentor, you can contact me directly, or like I said, the best place is probably for the e-news, sign up for the e-news. And then another question, or does anybody have anything else, other mentoring programs that they would want to share that people can get a mentor through?
I think Minerva was mentioned earlier, another great organization that provides mentors. And depending on what city or town you are in, Vancouver has the Forum for Women Entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
It has a mentoring program for youth attached with their business loans program. Futurepreneur is another great organization. On Women's Enterprise Center website is a list of networking organizations. IWIST is listed there. So, you know, that's a great place to start as well.
Yeah. And someone said, are they open now? So I know Forum for Entrepreneurs accepts mentees all year round. Futurepreneur, I believe you have to go through their program in order to get a mentor, so through their loan program. So it would be on an ad need need basis. I'm not sure how Minerva's works, but ours are intakes. So you just have to check out our website and then sign up for the e-news. So another question that just came in says, I would like to be a mentor, share my experiences, and help entrepreneurs grow. But first, I would like to receive some guidance on how to become a mentor. So is there workshops for how to become a mentor?
Kaitlyn.
Yeah. So again, like if you're interested in being a mentor for our organization, so you have to have over 5 years experience running a successful company. And then what you would do is fill out our online application, and then you and I would set up a time to chat, and we would talk about your experience and expertise and, you know, sort of who your ideal mentee would be in terms of industry or the challenges that they're experiencing. And then we would actually move into like a formal training that you would get once getting matched with a mentee. Anybody else have anything for that piece?
Any other questions?
So another question is, do you have mentors who have more experience in venture capital pitches and negotiation? I would have to look into our pool to see. We have over 160 mentors in our pool, so it's definitely a good chance that we would have someone with those skills.
Someone's jumping ahead. They have VC experience and can volunteer. Woohoo! We could do a match right here.
Send me emails.
Yeah, email Kaitlyn. Right.
So I'm in my late 40s and feel like I'm not where I should be in my career, feeling like it might be too late, but I've never been in a leadership role and want to be there, but have struggled to get there. Would an advisor be the best thing for me?
I can jump in there. So maybe not an advisor, possibly a career advisor. You know, like there's some excellent career advisors out there who can help to just, again, it's kind of that alignment of where are you, where do you want to be, where is the gap? Is it a skills gap? Is it, you know, an opportunities gap? What is needed to get you to from where you are now to where it is that you would really like to be? And that, you know, kind of career exploration, kind of career management, helping with resiliency, all of those pieces would best be done through career counseling. It would be my suggestion versus business advising or mentoring. Shelly, you may have some ideas about that, having worked with so many mentees, but does that sound like a reasonable next step?
I think I would really agree with that, Dawn. And sometimes it's even career coach, which is different than advisor. You know, often you can't quite separate the career from life altogether, and some of those things they're pretty tightly intertwined, depending on somebody's circumstances and someone that's skilled at being able to help unpack, you know, what's the path look like up until now and why, and what's the future ahead. Is a different level of, I would say, sort of EQ and ability to help process some of that, in addition to being able to give great career advice. So yeah, I agree.
Great question. Great answer.
So another one is, I have 3 total different business ideas and want to know if the mentor can help me to decide one of them in order to keep focused on. So in terms of our program is designed for people who are in the early stages of operating a business. So they're actively operating the business. They're past that idea phase. They're, you know, having clients, getting payments. So they're in that operating stage. So in terms of our program, a mentor wouldn't, you know, help you decide which business you should go into. Dawn is a business advisor with Women's Enterprise Center. So she would probably tell you to start working on a business plan and doing like a market research piece on each of those ideas and figure out which one would be the most viable. You can chime in, Dawn, if I'm.
Sure. No, you're absolutely right. Because that tends to almost be career counseling. Again, that I've got 3 ideas, I'm not sure which one to choose. That almost falls into the career counseling role as well, or the career coaching. But certainly, you know, assistance with, you know, market research, you know, how do I, you know, that minimum viability, how do I figure out whether or not this is even remotely feasible? You know, where do I begin? Business advising can definitely help with that stage, but not in determining which of 3 would be the best for you to choose.
Here's a question for Karina. Does IWIST have a formal mentorship program to connect more women in science and tech for specific technical skills? Or is that a dream yet to come? I'm in a data science boot camp and would love to connect with someone in analytics or science.
Yeah, great question. So we don't have a formal mentorship program. That's really why we're connecting with the Women's Enterprise group, because that is the best way to have something more formal. In an informal way, we've got a lot of events where there's open networking and we do introductions. The one that we just recently did, everyone that came on talked a little bit about what they do and what their area of specialty is. And there's some automatic or natural, organic kind of mentoring matches that are done in that way. So I would say, you know, if you're interested, sign up with IWIST. You can see our upcoming events. We're going to be sharing those today at the end of this presentation. And then really start to connect with the people that are either members or going to the events. Most of the events, at least at this point, are free. And it's a great way to connect. So if you're looking for someone specific, you can see also connect on LinkedIn and you can see their titles. So it's an easy way to connect with someone that has what you're looking for or skill sets that are very similar that you could connect with. And sometimes it's just bridging the gap. So it's connecting to one person and then they send you to someone else. So I would recommend that. And that's a free way to go. If you're looking for something more structured, then the Women's Enterprise Center would be your best bet.
Great. Thank you.
Oh, and thanks. I just saw your note, Elise. Thanks for joining the STEM call. That's great. I didn't recognize your name, but thank you. That's awesome.
Any other questions, Kaitlyn?
Yeah, I would like to build a community event series in one of the categories of STEM. I'd like to see if I can get any guidelines in events and program development and even partnership.
I would say reach out to Claire. Start there. Claire is our chair of IWIST, and you know, if you've got ideas like that, I would say reach out to Claire. It's a great first step.
I have one more question. It can't be all good news. What are some of the cautions to be aware of in a mentor match or relationship? What are some things to be aware of in considering becoming a mentee, for example? Does anyone want to jump in with that?
Well, Dawn, maybe I will. I mentioned it when I was telling my story, is make sure if you're asking someone to be your mentor that you do know that their values align with yours, because you know, these are senior people in leadership roles generally, and you want their experiences and their stories to reflect who you are as a person, at least somewhat aligned. Because if they're not, then I don't know that you're going to get a lot of value out of that relationship. And then I think the other key to success is that both people in that partnership are committed to the relationship. It's not always a one-way street of one person reaching out. It has to be a very two-way partnership that builds upon itself to build that trust to make it successful.
Very good, very important point. it is a two-way street. And the valuing the support. Yeah. How do we better support mentors? What can we do? What do mentors need to feel supported or celebrated? Can you think of, Kaitlyn, what are some of the things that you hear from mentors that they need?
Honestly, they don't ask for anything. They don't say they need anything. They say that the match in itself is an enriching experience for them. And, you know, they come into it in a volunteer role. So they don't really expect anything. They don't ask. They're just, you know, happy to provide their knowledge and expertise to help another person, you know, who's new.
Mm-hmm. Great.
You know, Dawn, I tie back a little bit to your first question. If I think about sort of the things that I look for, in some respects, I think it comes a little bit to the mentee. Well, it's a two-way street. It's most rewarding and least frustrating as a mentor when someone is organized and takes personal accountability for the session. And you can, you know, sometimes it depends on what the relationship is, but really sort of owning that time in terms of what's important to them to get from time together in a mentoring session. That I think if I go back to what do mentees need to bring, it is a bit of a sense of purpose in terms of outcome, because what I like to see as a mentor is for people to blossom and people to get sort of either the progress, the outcomes, the things that they're looking for from the relationship. It's less, at least for me personally, it's not so much about having coffee. I have lots of friends that I don't get to see very much of. So it's, you know, how can I be most helpful? And to do that, I think it's a little bit of preparation in terms of what's the most, I don't want to say important, but what is the focus of the time together?
Right. And for the mentee to take on some of that responsibility. Absolutely. Yeah, very important. Mm-hmm. We're running a little short on time. We might have time for one more question. Kaitlyn, is there one more question there?
Yeah, so it says, Bev or anyone, are boards proactively seeking diverse representation? How do boards achieve this if the patterns of choosing corporate leaders relies on male-dominated sectors?
Well, I can speak from the university board's perspectives. I can't speak to the Fortune 500 because the numbers there are not particularly good on equity, diversity, and inclusion. But certainly any publicly funded board in the province of British Columbia is required to make sure their board is diverse. So we have a board resourcing office in British Columbia that approves appointments to the board, and they are very, very much interested in equity, diversity, and inclusion. And that's minority groups, Indigenous, people with disabilities, the whole gamut. So they're very keen. And I'm happy to say that the University of Victoria board, we have 2 Indigenous people. We have more than half of our board members are female. We could still do better, and we work very hard at that. So certainly from government funded sector boards in British Columbia, it's very good. The corporate side, again, the numbers really haven't shifted when I've looked at them in the last 20 years. There's still not equity at corporate boards.
Thank you, Bev. Thank you. So we're just going to get ready to wrap up because I want to tell you a little bit about some upcoming events, and iWIST has some upcoming events as well. Free webinars. You can register at womensenterprisecentre.ca/MAF for mentor advisory forums. How to do business with the Government of Canada. This is an important one, STEM. And iWIST folks, this is a great live webinar with representatives from OSME, Office of Small and Medium Enterprise, They do this regularly. It's a great strategic alliance with Women's Enterprise Centre, and you can talk to someone about exactly how to do business with the Government of Canada. They're extremely helpful. They are, yeah, I'm so impressed with the work that OSME does, and it's a great webinar. The other one is our Strength in Numbers. This has been our COVID-19 response in connecting weekly with our community of women entrepreneurs. So take a look at this one coming up. We've got mentor advisory forums on all kinds of topics that have been recorded that you can download from our website. Take a look. You'll get a link to this one today in an email. You will receive a copy of today's session. And so for everyone who registered will receive a copy of today's recording. I really want to thank our panelists, Kaitlyn, our mentoring coordinator, our mentoring manager here for Women's Enterprise Centre, managing all of the groups, the peer mentoring groups, the taking the stage groups, the one-to-one mentor matches, Corina, Beverly, Claire, Shelly. Thank you for contributing your time and expertise today. I think this was a really, really interesting session. Loved the stories. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and have a great rest of your day. I'm so sorry. iWest, what a terrible partner. iWest has upcoming events.
Rest easy, Dawn, and thanks so much. I want to echo Dawn's sentiments and really show gratitude for all of our speakers today. Thank you to Women's Enterprise Centre, and I know I can speak for all of us on the board at iWest that we look forward to future collaborations as well. And thanks obviously to all of you who've attended today. Whoops, we can go back to the other slide. There we go, wonderful. iWest has a virtual book club. Our first one is coming up on June 23rd. Our book is called Grit by Angela Duckworth. We've chosen the first book, and obviously we'll be searching for other book ideas from our community as that group progresses. Our next event is coming up on July 16th and will be delivered by Cheryl Knapp, a litigation lawyer and conflict resolution specialist. And she'll be talking a little bit about, communication styles or conflict styles, some of the pitfalls and some strategies for addressing those. And we also want you to keep in mind the iWest Summer Party. We are reinventing our patio party, which is one of our hallmark events. So please stay tuned for that, and that's coming up in August. So please save the dates for those events. Again, thanks everybody, and I will pass things back over to Dawn. Thank you.
And I missed Julie in my thank you. Julie, thank you to all of you. I'm sorry if I missed anyone. Thanks to our audience. Thanks for coming today and connecting. As I mentioned, you'll get a copy of an email and can connect with our panelists as well, maybe through their LinkedIn or their email. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you.